So today we are beginning the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 62. And I love the Bhagavad Gita, especially the chapter 18. It has so many pearls of wisdom in there that I think it's a powerful, powerful, powerful lesson here. So I think you'll all benefit from it greatly. Before we start, we shall offer our obeisance to Sri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishnam Sharanam Mama. Sri Krishnam Sharanam Mama. Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. So, Krishna is speaking in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna is the supreme Godhead. We've all heard of different gods and goddesses, and a lot of people, especially in India and now also in the West, have come familiar with different gods and goddesses from the Hindu deities, though Hindu is actually not an accurate term. The term actually Hindu was coined by the Muslims when they came to India, and then it became official by the British, who decreed it as the religion of India, Hinduism. But in the Vedas, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no such mention of something called Hindu. So we shall say the Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal Dharma. That is the correct name. Or simply the books from which it is derived, this information, this knowledge, this gyan, are known as the Vedas. And Veda means knowledge. Just that, knowledge. And knowledge about the eternal, knowledge about who we are, knowledge about where we come from, and knowledge about the purpose of life. This is knowledge you will not find elsewhere. It is not a knowledge that can be produced by the mind. It is not a knowledge that can be manufactured by any human being. Although human beings try, and human beings try to distort these things, and human beings try their best to mess with all of this. But I think that if we can link the knowledge that is in the Vedas, especially here in the Bhagavad Gita, which is considered the essence of the Vedas, the more like the fundamentals, then if you can link it to experience, if you can link it to that which is truly realizable, which you can actually realize for yourself, then it becomes a science. A science is something where you begin with a theory, such as the Vedic knowledge. Then you have the experiment, which you do on yourself, which is actually you test it out, see is it true or is it not. And then you have the conclusion, whereby you can realize this knowledge. So the realization, the conclusion, is where it becomes real for you. Now it is not a theory. Now it has been tried, it has been tested, it has been proven. So that is when what the Vedic system tries to encourage, knowledge of the self in a way that cannot be done in labs or through machines or MRI or any of those other kind of scans and things like that. You can't get that kind of knowledge and experience that the Vedas talk about through a machine. That knowledge is internal. Therefore, it becomes very trying. If you were, for example, to believe that I am a perfect person, me here who's teaching you this stuff, then you would never know. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. There are many people who pose with wonderful garments and outfits and have many followers and put on a big show. And you might think, oh, this person has hundreds of followers, they must be the real thing. But it is not so. Because the verification of something that is real or not is not by what you see or what you hear. It is by what you experience within yourself. This knowledge is not about the speaker. This knowledge is not about the audience. This knowledge is about you taking this information, applying it. and seeing the results. Therefore, when you come here, take away something every time. When you come here, think of one or two things that you can begin to practice in your life and apply them to yourself and see the result. And when you come back, come and share with us, because I certainly would love to hear how some of this is changing your life. So if any of you has something that has happened in your life since you restarted this and you'd like to share it, here's your moment. I'd love to hear. Just raise your hand and I'll be glad to have you on. But if you don't feel a little awkward or not sure enough, think about it and you can tell me later. All right, we'll hold off until you're ready. But do think about it. If there are things that you've been learning here that you've applied and that have benefited you, feel free to share them. Meanwhile, let's begin reading about what Krishna has been saying in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This is text number 62, and here Krishna says, Tvam eva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat paramam santim sthanam prapasyi sasvatam. So the word sharanam means surrender. Sharan, sharanagati, the path of surrender. Right? And this chapter really is where Krishna begins to emphasize this path of surrender. He talks about it in the 12th chapter as well, that one who surrenders unto me, I lift him up from the ocean of birth and death. So here he says, O scion of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. And here he's referring to God, he's referring to himself. Surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Sthanam. Sthanam is the abode of God. In the Bible, they would call it heaven, but we understand that there are heavenly planets even within the material creation. And those heavenly planets, people have very long lives and they live and they have very beautiful bodies, much more than the earth. So those are other planets within this material creation. But beyond all of those heavenly planets and the earth, which is the middle, and then there's hellish planets below. But again, hell is not like fire and brimstone hell, but just places where the suffering levels are higher. And then the suffering level is less in the heavenly planets. But beyond all of that is the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, the transcendental abode of God, the eternal abode of God, the supreme abode, there is transcendental peace. Now you may say, well, how do I know? That you're telling me about something that I'll probably experience after I die, but how do I know it's real right now? Like, how do I know this is for sure? And the answer is actually right in front of you. If you begin the process of surrendering to God, you will see how the struggle of life stops. You're no longer fighting with reality. You're no longer fighting with what is showing up in your life. You're no longer struggling. Instead of struggling against the river, think of your being in a river. You can go against the river, or you can go with the river. To go with the river, to go with the flow of the river, that's what surrender is. Surrendering to what is. Surrendering to whatever shows up in your life. Surrendering to, it doesn't mean giving up. It means observing how things are unfolding. It doesn't mean not doing anything. It simply means learning to navigate in a way that is in accordance with what is. So I'll give you a simple example. Many of us at the time when COVID started, we used to meet one-on-one in person for these Bhagavad Gita classes. And for many things, we used to meet in person with our friends. We used to meet in person with our families. We used to get together in different groups. And then all this COVID stuff hit and we had to start going online. And many people resisted. But I know one thing, that you got to go with whatever's showing up. And if that's what's showing up, and if the need of the hour is to go online, then we go online. We do what's got to be done. We don't fight. reality. We don't fight what's showing up. We learn to find our way to navigate whatever's showing up. If the economy goes up or the economy goes down, we learn to navigate those waters. If there is war or if there is peace, we learn to navigate all situations. But we go with the flow. We do not resist what is showing up, whether it's hot or it's cold. So that's why in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that happiness and distress, heat and cold, are like winter and summer seasons. They appear and disappear, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So it's in that mood that we learn to surrender. We learn to accept. We learn to flow with life. Right? While still navigating those waters, while still making the best of whatever situation is in front of us. Right? Instead of the other option, of course, is to complain and to fight and to argue and to moan and feel like a victim and to feel that you have no power and to be powerless. Time is a very powerful force, and one of those things that we cannot overcome the influence of time. Right? So we have to learn to be able to adapt to different circumstances and situations, and as they reveal themselves to us. So Krishna is saying here that by His grace you will attain transcendental peace. And you say, well, I want peace, but I'm not getting it. My mind is crazy. My mind doesn't rest. My mind is not. And Krishna is giving you the formula right here. Surrender unto Him utterly, and by His grace you will attain transcendental peace. So that's in the here and now, right? And then as you leave this world, and you will attain the supreme and eternal abode. In fact, I would say that you will experience that eternal abode right here while still on earth. You will experience a world that is in fact heavenly and beautiful and incredibly fulfilling, instead of being something that you are constantly in battle with. Once you start to see that there is nothing that is either good or bad, there is nothing that is either right or wrong, either in what shows up in the world or what shows up in your life or with people or with circumstances or with situations, everything is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. That's the trust that we need to have. The trust in life. That life is happening exactly as it's meant to. We may not like it. We may not agree with it. We may not think it is good. We may not have our judgmental, critical mind might not appreciate what's going on in life, whether it's a battle in Ukraine or whether it's some other craziness happening somewhere in the world. We may not like it. We may not agree with it. We may not feel good about it, but that has nothing to do with it. It's already happening, right? So now the question is, when something is happening, you can moan and complain and groan and fight and bicker and argue, but that will not give you peace. To surrender means to accept. This is so. This is what is happening. This is what life is throwing my way. My job is not to fight with it. My job is simply to see what is required in this moment. How can I best be of service? How can I best support those who are near me, near and dear, and to whatever extent my reach goes, however far I can reach out, how can I be of service to God and to humanity? What is it that I can do, right? And that puts the power back in your hands. Instead of feeling powerless and helpless and a victim of circumstances, you are now putting it back in your hands, that my happiness is in my hands. My peace, my feelings of peace are in my hands, not in the hands of life, not in the hands of circumstances. I own my peace. I claim my peace. And with that peace, I have clarity. And when I have clarity, I will know exactly what needs to be done and how best I can serve. This idea of experiencing the supreme and eternal abode right here on earth has been sometimes referred to as heaven on earth. It's not a whimsical statement. It's not something that is, some kind of wishy-washy wishful thinking. But in fact, as we begin to step into that place of transcendental peace, this world becomes a heavenly abode. It becomes something where we are no longer grappling with the mind and its way of processing the world. We're no longer analyzing and fixing or fixating or obsessing or any of the things that our mind does, but rather we are able to observe the world and enjoy the world and each other as we are. Krishna continues here. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. This is extremely powerful. You will notice here, Krishna doesn't say that I've told you what needs to be done, and if you don't do it, I'm going to send you to hell and you're going to burn forever. No, he doesn't say things like that. He doesn't threaten Arjun. He doesn't give him fear. He doesn't tell him that, if he doesn't do this, he's doomed, he's damned, he's going to be. No. The love of God is unconditional. The love of God is unceasing, is not something that is withdrawn just because you don't do what God wants you to do, because you don't do what is supposed to be done or what He instructs. That love never goes away. That love is never conditional. Krishna's love for us, God's love for us, is eternal, undying, unconditional, without any expectation of return, without any cessation. It is constant, steady, like a rock. It is always there for you and me and for all of us. No matter how far we wander, no matter how terrible our deeds are, that love is always with us. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, deliberate on this knowledge. What knowledge? This knowledge that he has given, the entire Bhagavad Gita, the most confidential of all knowledge, the deepest, most intimate knowledge about the most important things in life. Deliberate on this fully. Right? He doesn't say, believe me. He doesn't say, you got to do this. It's not an order. Deliberate on this. And then do what you wish to do. And this applies to all of us. We are at choice. We have free will. And that free will never be taken away from us. That is the gift we have been given, the gift of free will. So you can do and have and be anything you want. That's what, when we came here to this earth, in the beginning, in our initial incarnations on this earth, we came with this promise. You will have free will to do whatever it is you wish to do here. Create whatever you want to create, have whatever you want to have, do whatever you want to do. There will be consequences. There will be karma. But you're free. Now see the outcomes of your actions and then decide, do you wish to do as you want to do, or do you wish to do as I am guiding you to do? Do you wish to do your will or God's will? That will be your ultimate choice. After you have played around with the world and fulfilled your desires, then you will come to that point where you will face this question. Do I wish to live according to my will or God's will? And you will come to that decision realizing, I've tried it my way, it hasn't worked. I've tried everything in this world. I've had everything in this world. I've done everything that I could. I'm still not happy. I'm going to try it your way. I'm going to devote myself, or rather, I'm going to think about what you've said, and I'm going to then sincerely attempt to apply these teachings in my life and live them and see the outcome for myself. Because I know that there's got to be a better way. And why is Krishna telling Arjun these things? He says, because you are my very dear friend. See, God has relationships. God has friendships. God has romance. God has parents. God has every relationship possible. You can choose to have any relationship you want with God. Every relationship you desire shall be so. And it's up to you. What kind of relationship would you like to have with God? In the case of Arjun, he refers to him as his very dear friend. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. This same message, these same words are being said to you as well, being to me as well. We too have a friendship with God. We too have a relationship with God. And that relationship is a relationship of love. And that love is a timeless love. That love is the greatest love of all. That love has no parallel, no equal. God is the one true love that we've been looking for. God is that ultimate lover and beloved, ultimate friend and well-wisher. So when we begin to understand that this is not a relationship based on fear, but rather on love, you begin to understand, oh, this is a whole different way of looking at God. And as we begin to get that within us, we begin to trust. Now Krishna is going to say exactly what is his advice in one short verse. But before I go there, if there are any questions, if there's something you'd like to ask, I'd like to take a pause and turn it over to you. Is there anything you'd like to know? Is there anything that I've been reading or saying that you might wish to inquire about? Anybody? All right. As you listen, if there are questions, don't hesitate to ask. Don't hesitate to either put them in the chat or bring them up, or speak in person. I'd be happy to hear you either way. All right. Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi satyam te parityani priyosime. Pratijani priyosime. Manmana bhava mad bhakta. Always think of me. So what is Krishna's ultimate instruction? It is here. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Bhakta. Bhakta means one who is devoted to me. Devotee is not someone who is by dress, but rather who is devoted. So become my bhakta, my devotee. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Let me read that again. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Priya is the word used here. Priya meaning dear. How will you always think of God? How will you always think of Krishna? It's impossible, right? You may think, oh my God, this is not, there's no way. I have so many millions of thoughts. How will I ever do this? How will it be possible? Let me give you the secret. The secret is Nam, the name of God. When chanted as a mantra, either by reciting the mantra or listening to kirtan. Kirtan is where they sing the mantra. So you can take a mantra like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This mantra is considered the mantra for the age of Kali. Mantra means that which frees the mind. Now, how does it free the mind? You know how the mind is? The mind takes whatever, it's like a sponge. It takes whatever you put into it. It's like, or you can think of it like a recorder, a tape recorder, a voice recorder, whatever we have these days, right? Digital recorder. So it's a recorder that takes whatever you input into it and then it records it and it starts playing it back to you. If you're listening to the radio and there's a catchy song there, it's going to play that song back to you. If you listen to people and you take what they say seriously, then it's going to play that back to you. If you see things, if you hear things, especially what you hear, is the most impressionable. Now, when a mantra is sung or chanted, it gradually starts to impregnate the mind. It starts to erase out all the other stuff, and soon all that you have is the mantra playing back to you. So the mantra in that sense frees the mind. It is a tool, it is a device, a yantra to deliver the mind, to free the mind from all the nonsense thoughts that it has. And it's important to recognize that almost 95 to 98% of what we think is nonsense. It really is. We think it is true. We think that the interpretations we have of the world are true. We think that what we think about people and about the world and about our life and is true. None of it is true. None of it. In fact, if you told that same narration to 10 people, you'd get 10 different opinions about what they thought was true. They'll have their own interpretations of that same situation. Which interpretation is indeed true? In reality, none of them. Or all of them simultaneously, which is the same as none of them. So the fact of the matter is that what we think has little to no consequence. What matters is that things are happening in life. Yes, they're happening. It's the interpretation part, the judgment part. He doesn't like me. She doesn't love me, or nobody will be there for me, or I'm so stupid. What is wrong with me? This is all the chatter of the mind. And none of it is valid. If you would stop and challenge that chatter, if you would start to actually step up to your mind and tell it, hey, what you're saying is not true. I don't believe anything you've got to say. I don't believe anything that you think. If you keep doing that, you're going to find that gradually your mind just gets fed up of trying to tell you stuff because now you're not believing it. The only reason our mind chatters away the way it does is because we believe it. If you stopped believing it, the chatter would stop. If you kept challenging it, the mind would have nowhere to go because nobody's listening. Nobody's believing. Nobody's buying into the nonsense that it's telling you. And if there are no takers for his nonsense, it will keep quiet. Try it. It's quite powerful. And then you will find that instead of the chatter, listen to kirtan. Kirtan. Just type the word Krishna in YouTube. And Krishna, and you listen to you can type Krishna Kirtan. And you will find all kinds of kirtan music showing up, Kirtan. And as you keep listening and listening, you will find it becomes part of your psyche. It becomes impregnated within your mind, and now it is what will play back to you. So that is how, one very powerful way in which you can always think of Krishna. The other way is to notice him in everything and everyone, in every being, in every person, in every situation, in every object of the universe, everywhere. He is present in everything, in the food you eat, in the water you drink, in the air you breathe, in the people you meet, the people you like and the people you dislike. All of them are manifestations of his varieties of forms and energies all over the universe. In all of them, he is present. Krishna said in an earlier verse that we just read, I am seated in everyone's heart. Right? He is in all of them. He is in everyone. And if we only recognize that, then how would we treat each other? With what respect would we treat each other? If my beloved God is in you, then how would I treat you? And if my beloved God is in the person that I disagree with or I have an argument with, my disagreement, my argument is my man-made, my human-made, my mind-made nonsense. It is of no value. What is of value is if I can penetrate my thinking and your thinking and see to the heart of you, then I will have compassion for you and love for you no matter who you are or what you think or what you do. It's very difficult, but it is very possible. Always think of me. Become my devotee means become devoted to me. What does being devoted to God mean? It means doing exactly this. Doing exactly this. Finding him everywhere. Right? Worship at me and offer your homage unto me. So just really being in a place of humility. Thank and gratitude. Thank you, God, for all that you have given me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right? Just deep humility and gratitude. In today's time, we are taught how to be selfish and arrogant and proud and all those kind of things. But that never got anybody anywhere. Right? What gets to the heart of every human being and what gets to the heart of God is our love, our devotion, our humility, our kindness. These are the things that matter. Not all our arrogance and pride and all the things that we make, try to impress the world with. None of that matters. And now to the most important verse, perhaps, of all, which is really, I think, the conclusion, the essence, the epitome of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Sarva dharma, all your religion, all kinds of beliefs, whatever it is you believe, whatever your religion is, whatever your politics is, whatever you have faith in, right? Whatever you think is your duty, whatever you think is your dharma, he says, abandon it. Tyag. Tyag means renounce it. Abandon it. Abandon all your dharma. Sarva dharma parityaja. And what should you do then? Mam ekam sharanam vraja. To me alone, surrender. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Why? Why should I do this thing? I shall deliver you from all karma. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo, or from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. In many religions, they say that their Messiah will free people from all sin. This was said thousands of years before by Krishna. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction, from all karmic reaction. But not just that. Moksha ishyamima shuchaha. Moksha is deliverance. Moksha is liberation. Moksha is freedom from birth and death. Freedom from all suffering. If you want to know the path to freedom from all suffering, this is the path. Krishna makes it very clear. Moksha ishyamima shuchaha. I will give you moksha. Do not fear. This is the ultimate promise that Krishna is presenting to Arjuna and to all of us. And once we understand that, we begin to understand that we are in good hands. We are actually going to be taken care of here and in the future, in this life and in the lives to come. You have come to the right place to find this truth, and I congratulate you for being here. Now, it's easy to doubt. It's easy to think, oh, I don't know. What's he saying? Why is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. And you're right. It's never easy to know what is true and what is false. And therefore, as I've said to you many times, and even as we began today, the best way to know is to apply this knowledge. The best way to know is to do it for yourself and see for yourself what works and what does not work. Because the fruits of this knowledge are available to you here and now. They are not something you need to wait for in some indeterminate future. They are here for you now. Are there any questions? This confidential knowledge may not be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. One who explains the supreme secret to the devotee's devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there be one more dear. So one of the most wonderful ways to become close to Krishna is to share this knowledge with others, is to let others know there is a way, there is a science, right? There is a science of spirituality that can be learned from the Bhagavad Gita. There is a science of God that can be learned here. And it is a science because it can be tried, tested, and proven. Because it works. And he says that is one of the easiest ways to win his heart, to help others, to share this wisdom with others, what you have learned. Bring them to these gatherings, bring them to read the Bhagavad Gita, or have them even watch the videos as we post them on YouTube. You'll find them on my YouTube channel, Spiritual Wisdom Channel. And the entire playlist of everything we've been reading and talking about for the last 2 years or so is all there. And then Krishna says, and I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from karma and attains to the planets where the pious dwell. O conqueror of wealth, Arjun, have you Heard this attentively with your mind. Are your illusions and ignorance now dispelled? And Arjun says, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy, and I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. Remember, Arjun started off with a lot of doubt. Arjun started off with not wanting to fight the battle. Arjun was not ready. He was all about peace and giving up and walking away. So that you could think, oh, he's surrendering. Oh, no, he's giving up. No, surrender is not giving up. That's what Arjun was about to do in the beginning. Surrender is surrender to the will of God, really listening, really understanding, and then really acting according to the guidance that God is giving us, not according to what we think or our whimsical ideas. So that's why it's so important to bring this knowledge to the world, because most people have whimsically created their own spiritual paths. They're not looking at the idea that there might be a standard. In fact, they don't want to accept the idea that there can even be a God. They want to have basically an idea that God is impersonal, is nirakar, has no form, is nirgun, has no qualities, and is basically just a light or an energy. And it's a very safe place to go to, because if God has no form and is not a being, then God is not going to tell me what to do, and therefore I can do whatever I like. And in fact, the fact of the matter is, you can do whatever you like. Absolutely. No one is saying you have to do anything other than what you like. But whenever you feel ready, know that there is a supreme intelligence that governs the universe, that guides everyone, that is in everyone and in everything, and is still a being with whom you can have not only trust and faith, but also a relationship, and a relationship that is based on love, not on fear. And in that relationship, he's there to guide you. And in that guidance, you will find your freedom. You will find your liberation. You will not suffer the way the majority of the world does. Even though things can and will happen. It's not that things don't happen. Just because you've come on this path and you start to follow Krishna's words, it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen. Arjun wasn't walking into a battlefield. Things were happening. Arrows were flying. People were dying. All kinds of things were going on, right? So there was no. It's not like he was going to be free of all the problems. The problems were there, but he was able to overcome them. How did he overcome them? He aligned himself with the divine will, with Krishna's wisdom, with Krishna's will, and he said, "My illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your grace, and I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions." This is what it's all about, right? So can we do the same? Can we take up Krishna's instructions here and be like Arjun? And can we commit ourselves to walk this path? Because this is a path that is sweet and full of all kinds of deliciousness. It is a path of freedom from the world, while still being in the world and experiencing everything, but no longer clinging to the world as a reality, really seeing the world for what it is. The Srimad Bhagavatam, which we'll be reading in a little while, once we've finished, I'm going to do a summary of the Gita next. I'm going to go over chapter 2. We'll start with the history of the Gita first, next session, next time we get on here, because this is the end of the 18th chapter. In the next meeting, we'll talk about the history of the Gita, how it all began, the Mahabharata, and then there'll be a whole story time, so be there for that. And after that, we'll come on to the second chapter, and so on. So be there for that, because now we'll get each chapter will be condensed into one session like this, and we'll go over all 18 of the chapters in summary. After that, we're going to start the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most amazing texts. It's full of beautiful stories as well as philosophies by different teachers over the ages. It culminates in the pastimes of Krishna. It will take a long time to read, but it is most amazing. And there it says, it begins with the idea that the greatest, the most incredible thing you can do, the greatest truth, the absolute truth, is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Meaning, if you can distinguish reality from illusion, you will have the greatest gift of all. What is reality? Reality is not what we think it is. Reality is not this world that we call real. This world is what we think is real. If we had no thinking, if we had no senses, the senses are what make us think it is real. It's like being in a virtual reality machine, in a virtual reality, like that headset you have, and in the same way we have this whole entire organism that experiences this world as real. But in fact, if examined carefully, it's observed to be nothing. There's nothing here. There's nothing going on, right? 99% of this is all space with atoms and protons floating in it, creating the illusion of reality. And that's what they were saying in ancient times, and that's what Krishna is saying out here, referring to the world as the illusion. And in the Bhagavad it says the same thing. Reality distinguished from illusion. Reality is that which is eternal. That is called reality. And all that is temporary, all that is called illusion. So, reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Once you begin to become grounded in the ultimate reality, the spiritual reality, that I am a spiritual being, you become grounded in that. You become completely invested in that. You see the world from that perspective. Then from that moment on, from that place, you begin to see the world for what it is. Not only an illusion, but an incredible movie, an incredible theater. As Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely actors. They have their entrances and their exits. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. That's us. So, I hope that we can carry on in this journey together, and that we can continue to devote ourselves to God, to Krishna, and to developing that love of God that is inherent in all of us. That is my prayer for all of us, and that is my prayer for everyone, every human being that wishes to walk on this path. And to all of you, the deepest gratitude for having been with me for the last few years as we've read through the Bhagavad Gita. We're now coming to the very last verses, and in this, Sanjay, who is narrating the Bhagavad Gita to the blind king Dhritarashtra, and you will hear that story when we talk next. He says, "Thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna." So he was witnessing this remotely, sitting in an entirely different city. He was witnessing this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, because he'd been blessed to be able to do so. Vyas had blessed him. I think it was Vyas, I'm not sure now. Had blessed him that he would be able to, because the king Dhritarashtra, the blind king, whose sons were on the other side as Arjuna and Krishna, the blind king Dhritarashtra had wanted to be able to see the battle, and he had been given a blessing that he would be able to see it through the eyes. Sanjaya would see it and he would narrate to him and write down everything that it was being said. No, he would write. He would see it, and Vyas would write it in a completely different place. So, thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. By the mercy of Vyas, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. O King, when I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with even greater wonder, and I rejoice again and again. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. And with that verse, we end the Bhagavad Gita in its entirety. I now turn over to all of you who are present here, and I ask you to share with me your thoughts, your opinions, your feelings of what you've been hearing, what you've been taking away, what you've learned. Anything that you have to share will be most valuable.
For me, it's just been an incredible roadmap, and I want to start reading it all over again.
We're going to do exactly that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So
we're going to start from the very beginning, the history. We'll do one whole session on just that. That'll be the next, and don't miss that. That's going to be very important. Okay. And then you'll get the story behind it, and then we'll go through a quick narrative of all that. I mean, the Mahabharata is the book to read, and if you want to know about it, I'll find the link and I'll give you a recommendation which volume might be the good one to read. And so read that. That's a fascinating story. You will find yourself so engrossed in it. I remember reading it, I couldn't put it down. And then we'll go through all the Bhagavad Gita after that. So yeah. So you're saying, Mariah, that it's been a powerful roadmap for you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that always the keyword for me is integration, but this is, I mean, it's just been this wise story or teaching about how to best live our lives. Yeah. I've loved it. It's beautiful, beautifully written.
Yeah, it's all in verses, by the way. It's all in in Sanskrit verses, perfectly composed, perfectly. I mean, we're speaking it in English, but if you look at the original Sanskrit, which you'll see, I'll put it on the screen right now. You can see it. You'll see that it's all perfectly composed verses. It's amazing. Here, you'll see it. Ooh, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to show up, and I don't know how to get out of this now. Okay, here we are. No, it's not showing up, so I don't know how to show you.
It showed up.
It did? Oh, okay. Yeah. You saw it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you will see that there were there are 4-line verses, and each of those verses in Sanskrit is what then are being translated, and that's what we are then reading in English. And there are times where I have recited those verses, but I mean, I'm no perfect reciter of Sanskrit. There are people who do it so brilliantly. You can hear the Bhagavad Gita being recited in if you do in YouTube, you can find it, recitation of Bhagavad Gita verses. You'll find some amazing chants where they just kind of and you won't understand it because it's all in Sanskrit, but you'll see how they can put it to song and meter and really recite it like it was this incredible. It's like the incredible thing that it is. Yeah. Any thoughts anyone else would like to share?
Thank you for undertaking this journey with us. I mean, I've read the Bhagavad Gita a long time ago. I read it like 2-3 times, but it's very different when somebody like walks you by the hand, like takes you by the hand and walks the purports and everything.
Yeah.
So, it's nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very, very beautiful messages. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being there. You've been there with us all through. Really appreciate that.
I started around the chapter 12, chapter 10 or 12, if I don't.
Really? Okay.
I'm not mistaken. So it's, I joined like quite late, but yeah. But I do look forward to your Srimad Bhagavatam classes and, discourses. I've heard those stories again and again from different pravachan kartas and
right.
At least like 4 or 5 different people, but it's always like everybody has such a beautiful perspective and there's always like so much more and more and more to learn. I would love to revisit it. Also, Rohit, this is just a request, and whether if at some point you can entertain it, that it would be lovely. I know you mentioned during one of the Bhagavad Gita discourses that you can you could do an entire session on the mahima of the Mahamantra itself, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and talk about the glory and the importance, and So if you have something like that scheduled, I would love to.
Yeah, I did talk about it when we started today.
Yeah,
I do.
I'm
intend
sorry,
to,
I was a little bit late in joining.
And I do intend to begin kirtan. I'm actually doing learning the harmonium at this time, and so I do
that's
intend
beautiful.
to start soon.
I used to play the harmonium. Yeah.
So I intend to start some kirtan singing of the mantra before our classes. So we'll begin that shortly as well. So and of course during that time I'll keep explaining the importance of the mantra as well. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll mute myself.
Anybody else would like to share your experience? Because this is our last on this 18th chapter, and then we're of course going to start again. All right. I think then we'll end with that. Thank you all very much for being here. And Hare Krishna. God bless everybody. Thank you.